Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Introduction to the Small Business Innovation Research Small Business Technology Transfer Program. I'm Rebecca Todd, excuse me, your presenter this morning, and I work as Innovation Specialist for the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center. We are a taxpayer-funded organization that provides confidential one-on-one consulting, training, and market research services for entrepreneurs and established companies across the state. We've been working in Arkansas for over 40 years. We have 12 regional offices that allow us to help entrepreneurs and established companies all across the state. Most of our regions have at least one university-based center. Through our center's competitively awarded federal and state technology grants, the ASBTDC is able to offer continued outreach through events like this webinar, where we share information about the SBIR STTR program for statewide and national audiences. We help entrepreneurs with each step of preparing and submitting Small Business Innovation Research, or SBIR, and STTR, Small Business Technology Transfer proposals, as well as state-level applications for supplemental technology commercialization funds. To date, our clients have won 80 SBIR and STTR awards across the participating agencies. Through our industry database subscriptions, we also can help clients locate market data to help them prepare key sections of their SBIR proposals, like the commercialization plan. Everyone who's registered for today's webinar will receive a copy of the slides as well as a link to the recording within 2 days, so you will have access to this material for later reference. Before we start, let's take a moment to make sure that everyone's ready and familiar with GoToWebinar. So first, you should have a control panel on the right side of your screen. You can minimize the panel by clicking on the arrow button, which is orange in the upper left corner. You can expand the panel by clicking on that same button. And second, you have the ability to submit questions using the question pane that's located near the bottom of the control panel. So feel free to submit questions throughout today's presentation. I'll be happy to take those at the end and answer any questions you might have. Before we get started, I just want to give you a little bit of information about my background. So again, my name is Rebecca Todd. I serve as the Innovation Specialist for the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center, or ASBTDC. I've been in this role for over 12 years now. And as Innovation Specialist, I work all across the state to help entrepreneurs and established companies explore and respond to funding opportunities in the SBIR and STTR program. The ASBTDC has helped Arkansas companies win over $34 million in SBIR STTR funds to date. To supplement these awards, our center has also assisted clients with winning over $6 million in state-level and venture capital funds. I attended the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville, where I earned my bachelor's degree in biology, as well as a master's degree in animal science. I then studied professional and technical writing at the UA Little Rock, where I earned my master's in arts. And early on in my time at the ASBTDC, I also became a certified business advisor and technology counselor. So with that, I want to go ahead and kick off today's presentation, which is an introductory level discussion about the Small Business Innovation Research Small Business Technology Transfer Program. Here on our main slide, I do have logos for our center, as well as the UA Little Rock and Small Business Administration, since we are dual funded by the university system as well as Small Business Administration. I want to give credit to our sponsoring entities here. So this is an overview of what we'll be covering today. I wanted to start off just sharing more about our services for those of you that aren't familiar with what we do and how we can assist you. Then dive into the overview of the SBIR STTR program, how to get started with finding a fit for your innovative idea within this program, what kind of market research is necessary to really assess the need, why that's so important to do before you start writing, and then consider how to protect your market position. This is a program that's meant to help you commercialize rather than, well, we'll get into that a bit later, but it's meant to help you move your technology from idea all the way to marketplace. So you need to figure out how you can best protect it once you enter the market. And then talk about some pre-writing steps as well to help you get set up well for success when you start looking at this program further. So I wanted to give a little bit more background about our center, the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center. If you're not from Arkansas, there are centers like us in every single state. And you can find the center that's in your state going to SBIR.gov and doing a search for local resources, which we'll see that a little bit more later. But every day, the ASBTDC helps our Kansans take ideas and turn them into businesses. Our work's project-based, and we have ongoing relationships with companies. So a company might start with us for help with one particular proposal application, but they can continue working with us to develop a market strategy or financial projections, things of that nature. And we love to assist our homegrown entrepreneurs as they follow their dreams and in turn start to build the state's economy. So this shows how we're positioned all across the state. I actually need to update this to show that we have now added centers so that we have 12 total in the state of Arkansas. This allows us to meet with companies where they're at, and some of our centers are able to do in-person meetings. A lot of us are still doing things virtually right now, but this is a great way to help us be in your backyard, hopefully, where we can talk with you and have training events and make sure you get all the assistance you need in the way that's in the format that's most useful for you. If you go to our website, you can find out more about which county goes to which center, things like that, if you're not familiar with that kind of thing. So our clients include those who are starting new businesses from scratch, buying established businesses, looking to expand their business, or commercializing their research or new technology. I work with entrepreneurs in the last category, many of whom are seeking funds through state and federal channels or licensing, royalties, and private investment. I specialize in assisting clients who want to pursue federal SBIR STTR contracts and grants. So each year, we track measurable progress made by our clients to demonstrate the value of our services. Because we don't charge a fee for anything that we do like to see what kind of results our clients are getting, and that way we can share their success stories, get the word out about companies that have been able to benefit from our services, and make sure more people know about us and continue to take advantage of what we have to bring to the table. For every $1 that's been invested in ASBTDC clients, we've had generated a return on investment of $12.82. So we meet our clients where they're at in terms of their specific business needs rather than trying to offer a one-size-fits-all approach. Our consulting services are confidential, and as our center continues to seek innovative ways to serve our client needs, we have engaged with subject matter experts in areas such as human resources, digital marketing, and others. And these are some of our specialist services that can help to support our traditional business consultant offerings here. Each year, all of our centers are offering a variety of events on different topic areas. And so I encourage you to go to our website, which is asbtdc.org, and you can then go to events calendar. You can filter by location if you're looking to do something in person with us or just know what's going on in your immediate area led by staff in those centers. I mentioned in the introduction that we subscribe to a number of industry databases. That's a way to help us to access current information across a variety of fields. Through these resources, we can help clients learn more about their competition, their customers, and trends in their fields of interest. And these are reports that would normally be thousands of dollars to access online. And so by going through our center, you can get this material free of charge. And our staff will actually hone the most useful pieces of these reports and create a custom tailored binder just for you and your company so that you're getting the most relevant content and can then apply it to different applications. It could be maybe a business plan or a grant proposal, depending on what you're looking to do. Our services also include geographic information systems mapping. This can be useful for companies that need to have a brick and mortar location and they want to find out what the drive times are to get from one place to another, where their customers tend to be congregated, how long it would take them to reach their location. It also helps to plot out where the competition is located in a given region. So this is a great service that we are able to bring to bear for our clients, and hope that anyone's interested to take advantage of this opportunity. It's really part of our consulting services So we don't give this separately from that. It's built into our offerings where we guide you through to reach your business goals, and market research is one way to help you get to those. This is a little snapshot of some of the market research content that can go in a typical binder for clients. We subscribed to IBIS World, First Research, Dun & Bradstreet, $1 Million Database, and BizMiner, among others. And so our reports give lots of great information about the industry, benchmark data, business lists, demographics, and locations. My focus as innovation specialist is really on supporting our state's technology-based companies. This includes all of those who are interested in conducting new, often long-term research and development work for the purpose of developing new products and services that can later be sold in commercial market or to federal agencies. Applying for funding through the Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer Program is a detailed multi-step process, and we guide clients through every stage of it. So as you can see, while SBIR and STTR are my areas of expertise, that's just one thread of the ASBTDC's web of services. We assist clients with every aspect of business creation, operation, and management because they're all interwoven. A client might come to us for one reason, like help with a proposal, but then end up working with us on exporting or market strategy. But regardless, our consultants are here to see each project through from start to finish. So I have a short video I wanted to share with you that talks about some of our success stories, client success stories with the SBIR STTR program. I need to actually click on this link to pull it up. And if you aren't able to hear it or see for any reason, please drop a note in the chat and I'll just let you visit this later. Sometimes there are some technical issues with that. Just a moment here. I meant to have this up earlier, but it didn't happen. Okay, it is not transferring over very well. We're going to hold off on this and come back to it. But I want you to know it does feature companies that are listed here. GSS Group, a horticultural company in our northwest region of the state that's doing great things with USDA SBIR grants. Cat Eyes H2O is a water remediation company that's looking to remove toxins from water, and they've won awards from several agencies, including the Department of Defense, Army, National Science Foundation. Ambots is a robotic engineering company. They've developed a way to do swarm manufacturing with robotic technology to help save time for manual labor and developing large materials. And they won funding from the Small Business Innovation Research Program of the National Science Foundation. We also have Rejuvenix Technologies, a biomedical company that's developing ways to help reduce the side effects of chemotherapy treatment for cancer patients. And New Shores Biosciences, a spin-out of UA Little Rock, that's developing a new way to regenerate bone, starting in the cranial maxillary region of the body, so that there's less chance of rejection, the body rejecting unfamiliar organs or pins and other things that have historically been used for that purpose. So please do check out this video. We'll try to come back to it after a bit, and it's only a few minutes long. But to date, as I mentioned in the introduction, our clients have received 80 awards to this program. So just to summarize, I think I've got the, okay, there we go. We are a results-driven, high-performing program committed to providing quality services that meet the needs of Arkansas entrepreneurs. We're also unique among the Arkansas economic development organizations because we serve businesses from any county, any industry sector, at any stage of development. The SBIR STTR program is now around $3.7 billion annually, making it the largest source of funds for innovative companies that are conducting research and development work beginning at the proof of concept or idea stage. These awards take the form of grants or contracts from the participating federal government agencies. So they're different from other sources of funds because they are non-dilutive, meaning that the government's not trying to take any ownership of your project that would result in new technology, and it doesn't require any cost matches. So you don't have to pay any money to get a handle on this money, and it's also essentially free money in terms of it's not a loan, you don't pay it back, and there are really no strings that may be associated with traditional types of funding. However, you do need to have an alignment between what you're wanting to do in this program and what the agencies are seeking to fund as they identify in their research topic areas. So you do need to find a fit between those two things. That's one of the things that ASBTDC can help you do. Agencies are all seeking proposals that respond to their research topics that are reflective of their mission and objectives. So the participating agencies include those that have at least $100 million in their external research and development budgets. And these are agencies that are congressionally mandated to participate in the SBIR program. They set aside 3.2% of their research and development budget each year for SBIR. And of these 11 agencies, the 5 largest that have at least $1 billion in their budgets also are in the Small Business Technology Transfer STTR program. Since oversight for this program is provided by the Small Business Administration, the applicant company must meet the SBA's definition of a small business. So the company needs to be primarily owned and operated by U.S. citizens or permanent residents. Companies usually are 500 or fewer employees. There can be some exceptions to that based on the industry area, so they could actually even be a little bit larger in some cases. There's also someone that leads the project effort called the Principal Investigator, or PI, and for the SBIR program, this person needs to be at least 51% employed by the company at the time of award. For most of the STTR programs, the PI doesn't have to be primarily employed by the company. And one exception is the National Science Foundation, where they still would need to be at the time of award. So it is important to have someone that's ready to serve full-time for the company upon notice of that SBIR award. I wanted to mention a few nationally recognized companies that all got their start through the SBIR STTR program. So Qualcomm is now the world's leading provider of wireless technology and services. If you have a cell phone, there's a good chance that you use Qualcomm products every single day. This company grew in the 1980s, and SBIR funding allowed Qualcomm to hire engineers and begin developing chips. Qualcomm was awarded $1.5 million in SBIR funds from the National Science Foundation and Department of Defense. This enabled the company to reach the consumer application market. Symantec is a global leader in providing security, storage, and systems management solutions. And Symantec acquired Norton. Norton's sales tripled within a year. Symantec was actually the very first recipient of an SBIR grant in 1982. They were able to use SBIR funds to support the breakthrough product Q&A software that generated $50 million in sales. And finally, we have iRobot. iRobot Corporation designs and builds robots that make a difference. iRobot was founded in 1990 by Massachusetts Institute of Technology roboticists. Their vision was to make practical robots a reality. And the SBIR program contributed to more than $16 million in funds to develop robots now used in government, industry, and for consumer applications such as the Roomba. So I hope these examples help to illustrate how powerful the SBIR program can be in helping a company grow from an innovative idea all the way to being a major industry player. And that being said, the SBIR STTR program, it's not meant to be a long-term funding source to sustain a small business, but it is intended to help companies move all the way from the idea stage of product development to commercial readiness level for their new and needed innovations. The program offers a way to take advantage of small business and university partner expertise to address agency-identified critical need areas. Often, large industry players just don't have the bandwidth or interest to conduct the long-term research projects that are required to fully develop and vet new innovations for market use. And so for this reason, Large companies like Lockheed Martin are interested in collaborating with small businesses in the second phase of the SBIR STTR program to help them develop innovations that support their missions and goals. This program is really intended to support the economic growth all across the nation and lead to more high-paying jobs. What it also does for each state is help to retain talent right here in the state, rather than having students in certain skills of study to leave the state to find jobs. They can start their own companies right here or join others that are doing this through the SBIR program. One thing to keep in mind with the SBIR STTR program, it does require the project team to learn the language of business so that they can effectively communicate the value of their proposed technology to potential customers and partners and start to build those professional relationships early. So there are certain projects that this program is not intended to fund. One would be basic research, which is traditional academic projects where the outcomes are shared primarily within the academic community, often through journal publications or scientific conferences. In many cases, with basic research, the outcomes are pretty predictable rather than being high risk. There's also really not a push with basic research to push innovation to market, but rather to prove scientific hypotheses through incremental research and development. Most agencies in this program are supporting development of disruptive technologies that offer groundbreaking solutions with the potential to create new industries. There's really little interest in non-disruptive technologies that rely on incremental improvements to established technologies. So they're looking for something brand new and different that you're bringing to the field of study. Although SBIR STTR funds can be used to support low-rate initial manufacturing, especially in phase 2, if a company is ready for full-scale manufacturing, then they are probably beyond the realm of SBIR STTR. To give you a little bit of background about this program, it became a piece of congressional legislation back in 1982 through the Small Business Innovation Development Act. When this occurred, it was possible to award federal research grants to small businesses to support federal research and development needs. SBIR agencies are required to set aside 3.2% of their external research and development budget for this program. The STTR set aside is 0.45%. This program needs to be periodically reauthorized by the US Congress and is currently authorized to run through September of this year. However, we do expect it to be reauthorized beyond that time. It's not ever gone away. It's very strong in terms of getting bipartisan support. And so it's one of those programs that's maybe not ever a permanent piece of legislation, but it is continually reauthorized. The value of it is very, very known. And so it's got bipartisan support to continue. Let's dive in a little bit deeper and look at the 11 agencies that participate in the SBIR program. So here you can see the list of all the agencies that are involved in this program. Since it began, Arkansas companies have won SBIR awards for most of these agencies. The ones at the top in blue are agencies that primarily issue grant awards. The ones that have orange bullet points, these are agencies that usually issue contract awards. And the reason I wanted to point that out is because the grant agencies like National Institutes of Health, US Department of Agriculture, they tend to have topics that are very broad in scope. So they're looking to meet needs of the general public. For example, NIH might be looking for a treatment for cancer. And on the other hand, the contract agencies like Department of Defense and NASA have very narrow topics, meaning that the scope is very, very tight in what they're looking for, because they're looking to initially address internal agency needs. For example, they're looking to have someone to help them design a component of a military vehicle, maybe design an infrared camera to help detect biological aerosols. So very, very targeted type of topics that you'll see when you start looking at the contract opportunities versus the grant ones. Contract agencies can and often will engage phase 2 and sometimes phase 1 awardees in something called a sole source contract. And this allows them to continue funding the business and its partners to develop technology until the internal need has been met. Companies then have the right to sell to customers in the commercial market. So if you can get the government to be your customer, as in the case of these contract opportunities with Department of Defense and others, that's really a great way to go. They're going to continue paying you to develop technology that meets their needs, and then you still have the right to address other commercial applications that you might have come up with, like iRobot with the Roomba, for example. So there can be multiple ways to make money over time with your company as you think about different opportunities that are out there. So let's talk a little bit about the roles of the key personnel on these projects. I mentioned earlier that there's someone called the principal investigator that's responsible for overseeing the project effort and reporting back to the agency. So again, this person needs to be primarily employed with the company at the time of award, not at the time of application, but at the time of award. There needs to be someone ready to step into this role. In terms of outsourcing, up to a third or 33% can go to partners like universities, other businesses, federal laboratories, for example. But the rest of it, 2/3, needs to be done by the business. So this isn't a type of program where you can really funnel all of the work to a university. Even in the other STTR that we'll talk about in a second, you really have to demonstrate that the company has the capabilities and the expertise to perform a majority of the work in-house. Within the Small Business Technology Transfer Program, you have the 5 biggest agencies that were already listed out for the full SBIR program. They have to set aside 0.45% of their external R&D budget for STTR. So the original goal of STTR was to help to facilitate the transfer of technology developed by a research institution like a university through the entrepreneurship of a small business. But I would say nowadays it's just as common that the business is seeking out a university research partner to take advantage of their knowledge base and the materials that are on hand that they can access through that partnership. Otherwise, it'd be very challenging to bring to their own internal team on such a small amount of funds, usually at the start of these business ventures. So STTR was established 10 years after the SBIR program in the early 90s. It's attractive to many small businesses because it does allow the company to have high-level access to university research and academic professionals. These partnerships can offset the risk and expense of these research projects. With STTR, up to 60% of the research effort can be performed by the university partner or other entities. At least 30%, though, needs to be done by the primary research institution partner. So you'll see that on the bullet point listing here. And then you can have a combination of partners, or you can just outsource even more, up to 60% to that same partner. One thing to keep in mind is that you do need to be prepared to sign an agreement between the company and your primary partner, often called a cooperative research agreement. It could be called something else depending on what agency you're targeting with your proposal. And this is something that outlines the expectations regarding how you're going to share intellectual property or royalties and things like that once you do reach commercial market. You can always change this over time. You just need to have something on paper that's the expectation as of the time of application. And as I mentioned, the PI for STTR usually can be employed outside of the small business, but one agency that doesn't allow that is the National Science Foundation. They still want to see the PI be employed by the company, even in the STTR program. That helps them to see that the commitment is there for long-term success, and they like to see this technical talent stay in-house as well. Some of the agencies award grants, others are contracts, and some do a little bit of both. Each agency has a different set of research topics that they're interested in funding. They also have different solicitation cycles or funding cycles. And so when in a given year, you can actually apply to more than one agency. You can apply to one in the spring, one in the summer, one into the fall, because they are all these different schedules. I would always say to start with one at a time, though, especially if you're brand new to this program. It's a lot of work, and you really need to be competitive on a national level. So dedicating enough time to make sure your proposal is as strong as possible is always the best practice. So phase 1 awards tend to be between 100,000 and 250,000, although there can be some variation depending on the agency. and you have between 6 months and a year to perform on the project. Phase 2, this is where you have more money and time to fully develop a prototype, get it tested out in the customer's environment, make sure it works as intended, and meet any regulatory requirements that might be mandatory before you can start selling it and market. Phase 2 awards between $400,000 and $1 million+, and you have 2 years generally to perform all this work. In Arkansas, we have some state funds from the Arkansas Economic Development Commission, or AEDC, and that can help you. We have something called Technology Transfer Assistance Grants, which will help you to recruit additional expertise with the preparation of proposals in collaboration with our services here. We also have matched funding. So if you win a Phase 1 award or Phase 2 award through the SBIR program, the state will match a certain percentage of that award to help you cover costs that just aren't ones that you can pay for through the program. So check out, if you're not in Arkansas, check out what your state offers to help you supplement these Phase 1 and 2 projects, so that you can also extend that timeline a little bit further. A lot of times you don't want to lose momentum in between the phases, and so seeking other sources of funds is a good idea to help you keep the research going strong during those intervals. So this is just a slide that helps summarize the things I've already shared. The award ranges for Phase 1 and 2. There's not really a Phase 3 with the SBIR STTR federal dollars, but this is where the sole source contracts that I mentioned earlier come into play, where if you are working with a contract agency, you can start a contract with them that allows you to continue to develop products meeting their needs until they've had that need met. And some agencies offer supplemental funds to extend Phase 1 and 2 projects as needed as well. So that's something to check out on an agency basis. Also want to mention with Phase 1, after you submit these proposals, you've got usually a 4 to 6 month wait period to see what the outcome is going to be. And the same thing applies even between Phase 1 and 2. You've got a little window of time where you're just kind of waiting around. They have so many applications to review. There's not a quick turnaround on after you submit. You won't know probably for a couple months at least. With Phase 2, it's a little bit faster, but Phase 1 is 4 to 6 months. So like I mentioned, you do want to have other sources of funds to help you bridge those gaps in time. I also want to mention that the SBIR program is one that satisfies open and fair competition. So after you win a Phase 1 award, at least, the agency doesn't have to require you to compete with others before they can choose to continue funding you through sole source contracts or other types of contracts. And so that's how it's possible to have those kind of opportunities with the program. I want to mention the success ratios with SBIR STTR because that's important to know. Your first time applying, you're probably looking at 15 to 30% success rate in Phase 1. That's why a lot of times the goal is to really get strong reviewer feedback on your proposal, so that will help to inform you if you want to resubmit. You'll have a better chance next time to address all the areas of perceived weakness or where there's opportunity for building your team or addressing technical points that they felt were a little bit lacking. You can submit a stronger proposal your second time around and increase your chance of success. We've seen companies win their very first time out that have worked with our center. So definitely engage your state's small business and technology development program to increase your odds of winning. In Phase 2, you'll see that the awards tend to be higher in terms of odds of winning those. That's because your team's already proven their credibility in Phase 1. And so they believe in your team, they believe in your ability to perform the work plan that you've outlined. And so you don't have quite of a small chance of success. It's gone up quite a bit by the time you reach Phase 2. I want to mention intellectual property as well, although we're not get too deep into this. Legal counseling is not something that's part of our services at ASBTDC, although we can talk about just general best practices. So before you even start writing your proposal, start thinking about what kind of intellectual property you might ultimately have with your new product or your new service. You don't have to have a patent or any type of intellectual property in order to win SBIR or STTR funds, but it's important just to begin planning for how you will protect your product, because the goal is to ultimately get to the marketplace, and you don't want to be readily copied by competitors once you get there. So the BiDo Act was passed in 1980, not long before the SBIR program started. And this is a piece of legislation dealing with intellectual property that's arising from federal government-funded research. It was originally sponsored by 2 senators, Birch Bayh of Indiana and Bob Dole of Kansas, making it a bipartisan act. And before it came into place, federal research funding contracts and grants obligated inventors to assign inventions that they made using federal dollars to the government. But after BiDo came into play, universities, small businesses, and others that received these dollars were given the right to pursue ownership of the invention in preference to the government. So it really encouraged those award recipients to think more entrepreneurially about what they could do if they actually had the rights to protect their technology and get it out there to the market. How would they build a business around that? Whoops. Also want to mention that the expectation of the program is that commercialization happens, not just sitting back to collect these awards and working in the lab or field without taking those steps to bring it to market. And so that being said, the government does have something called margin rights. They can require licenses to be granted or grant licenses in certain circumstances if there's a national emergency. But to date, no agency has exercised its margin rights. So this isn't something that should keep you from exploring the program. This is just something to be mindful of, that the government does have this right to use projects that they funded to help the public if there is a national emergency, for example. So as long as you take appropriate steps to complete the paperwork associated with your awards and bring your technology to market within the proposed time frame or as soon as you're able, this isn't something that should concern you. So we're on an American Invents Act. With the passage of the American Invents Act, we are on a first to file system. And so as soon as you file your patent application with the Patent and Trademark Office, that filing date serves as your placeholder in the system, meaning that after this date, others can't legally replicate your product or service and compete with yours on the market. So once you do have enough data collected over the time that you perform these phase 1 and 2 projects, it's a good idea to think about, okay, this is the time to file a patent, because you do want to get that placeholder in the US Patent and Trademark Office system. You do need to get legal counsel that's not through our center to help you prepare and file your patent, but there are some steps that you can do on your own before you get to that stage. So I would say go to uspto.gov and do some searching around. You can do keyword searches of patents that have already been issued, and we'll get into SBIR STTR awards, how to search those, which, as I mentioned, can opt to be pre-patent. You don't have to have a patent at all to win an award. There's also something called a provisional patent, which is a placeholder for protecting your idea for a 1-year period. And after that time, you do need to file for a full patent to really have a strong protection of your idea in the market. The recommendation is not to disclose any information publicly about your idea until the patent is filed. So you need to consider how you can still secure potential customers during that time. You might think about things like non-disclosure agreements and how to just talk to customers maybe on a broader level without revealing all the technical details that would be considered confidential. And if people knew them, they could copycat what you're doing. So these are the steps you can do on your own. As I mentioned, the keyword searches, you have patents as well as awards. So the one step that I would help you more with versus the patents is the looking for closed topics and prior awards through SBIR.gov site. So what I've done here is done some screenshots that help walk you through the process on SBIR.gov, which is the official government site for this program. Now, the reason you want to search closed topics rather than open ones first is because, as I mentioned, all of the agencies are on their own unique funding cycles. And so if you only search what's open now, you're going to be missing others that might be a fit for you. But if you search closed topics, then you're going to capture all of the agencies, all 11 of them, and see which ones might be a fit for you and your idea. And then, as I mentioned, you can also apply for different opportunities all throughout the year that way, starting with the one that might be the low-hanging fruit, the easiest one to target initially. So you'll start here on the main page to the funding drop-down menu, and you'll see it offers you overview, topic areas, or solicitations. You'll select topic areas from there. And from that point, on the left side, you can see that you can search open, future, or closed topics. You would select closed, and then type in really probably 2 keywords at least in the field box that's over the second part of this page. At the very top, where it says robot education, you would type in words that pertain to your project idea, hit the search button, and that would display all the results that are out there, along with the date the topic was issued for a given agency. And so one thing you'll see as you start doing these is that you'll see the same topic for the same agency if it's a grant agency like National Science Foundation, because they tend to recycle the same topics year after year, even within the same year if they have multiple opportunities like some agencies do. So that's interesting to note, that you can start planning really early with a grant agency because they tend to have the same topics each time. You could probably even start a year in advance, just kind of outlining your proposal idea. But the goal here is to really click through. The title of the topic is a hyperlink, so you can click on that to get a more expanded description of that topic area and find out if that appears to be in line with what you're wanting to do or not. I would say that some of these grant agencies really are striving to be more investigator initiated, so they're not going to have as much description as, for example, the contract agencies in their topics. They really want to get the best ideas and not restrict those. So even National Science Foundation has really backed away from having lengthy descriptions. They just want to give a little bit of idea of what they're looking at, but it's really not as long as it was even just a couple years ago with these. So you'll go through and keep adding keywords to shorten your list of results and see what you find out when these closed topics are popping up. Then you'll track your key findings. You can create your own Excel template that has categories like I've included here, or if you're in Arkansas, I'll be happy to send you this one to work with. This is just a screenshot of an Excel spreadsheet where you want to put things like the year the award was made, or not the award, the topic was issued, the topic title, the program director, name and contact. And the second search you want to do is the search of awards. So you found the topics, how many awards and what kind of awards were already made on the topic that you feel was a fit for your idea. You don't want to duplicate something that's already been funded. That would just be a waste of your time and effort, especially if they've gone from phase 1 to phase 2 and then from phase 2 to market with it. There could be an exception if they did not make it there. But this is also a way to show that you, as you're writing a proposal, that you're aware of these other companies that are related to what you're doing, but you still can defend that you occupy a unique niche in the field that they can't cover with theirs, with their technology, their solutions. So doing this search of awards is really, really important for multiple reasons, and I highly recommend doing that right after you search closed topics. So you'll start again at SBIR.gov, go to the reports drop-down menu, and from here you'll click on award data. Then you can use the same keywords that seem to pull up the most relevant closed topics before, excuse me, and click the search button. So this one, tons of results pulled up. If you just do robot education, you'll probably have to add another 1 or 2 more keywords, but you'll do that, hit the search button, and that will pull up the whole listing. Usually it is by the most recent year, so that will help you to find the most current types of awards. I would say definitely pay attention to the ones made in the last few years. You maybe don't have to go back to 1980, and you can filter the search by clicking on the years boxes on the left side. Although I wouldn't worry too much about that initially, because it does kind of self-filter for you on that area, at least with the years. But again, the awards are hyperlinked with the blue text at the top of the description. So you'll click on the ones that just by the title alone appear to be relevant for you and learn more about the award, what company won it, when did they win, how much did they win, and what did they propose to do exactly. The only piece of information that's ever shared publicly if you win an award is your summary or your abstract of your award, of your project that would show up in this award search. So everything that's shared here, the company actually wrote it and was okay to share it with the public. Again, you'll track your key findings on Excel spreadsheet, which I'm happy to share if you're an Arkansas company. You want to know things like who was the principal investigator, how relevant is this to yours? Is it highly relevant, medium relevance, and things like that. And some of these things, you want to do secondary searches of the principal investigator. So that's why you want to track their name. You want to see what have they published, where have they presented, what events are they going to. You'll learn all that you can about companies that appear to be right in your space that you need to be able to show that you're aware of what they're doing. If they offer or represent any kind of threat to you, or if they may be a partner for you. These are just things to try to feel out before you start writing your proposal. And so customer discovery is another piece of market research that's important to do. This is more of a primary market research where you're talking to people versus doing online types of searches. So it's really important to talk to potential customers before you start planning to develop a new solution for them. This is called customer discovery work. And what it does is reveal what areas of their jobs they consider to be the most constrained by limitations of their current technologies or their current solutions. So rather than trying to pitch them your idea, you're really trying to listen to them about what do they find to be challenging, why, what would they like to be different about a certain process or a certain methodology that they have to use regularly that makes things frustrating for them. And they can also share what elements of their solutions are effective. So they might not all be bad, and they might like certain features that they want to see continued if there was a new solution made possible. And how does the operating environment impact performance? So as you develop something, you've got to keep in mind that even if it works well in your laboratory, in the field, or in your garage, will it work in the actual customer's operating environment? So you need to know what kind of variables you're up against that could impact performance there. And that's something to learn about in customer discovery. What kind of issues do they face in their operating environment that can make it a challenge to effectively integrate your solution? You also know what would actually trigger them to invest in you. So is there a certain number you would have to hit on speed or cutting out steps in a certain process? Other types of performance variables, if it hits a certain milestone, certain percentage of incremental improvement, what is it that they want to see before they would actually invest in your solution? That's what your trigger point is. You want to maintain a close professional relationship with these customers as you develop a solution that serves their needs. The reason is, I mean, of course, you want to eventually sell to them, so they need to know as you go through the process of research and development work, they need to be able to see different iterations of the technology, make sure that it still appears to be in line with what they need, which what they need might change over time too, as their environment might be forced to modify. And so you don't want to just talk with them and then 3 years later come back after you've won the phase 2 award and developed the final version. And this needs to be an ongoing conversation where you're always aware of what they need and can make sure that the final technology fully addresses that need. With the SBIR program, it's important to have strong letters of support. And so these are customers that hopefully can provide you with those kind of letters that are non-binding on their end. All of the onus is on you as the performing company to really deliver the technology that they need. So conditional upon you winning phase 1 and phase 2 award and coming up with a commercial ready version of the technology, they're just saying that they would really like to see this brought to market. They're interested in investing in it if so. And that really shows that you have that clear pathway to marketplace that you've actually defined on your own through this customer discovery work. You're not relying on some kind of secondary market research to make that claim that you've actually talked with people in person and gotten their interest, and it looks like there is a clear way to reach them if you're able to develop through this program. I guess just one more thing to add, this is also part of learning the language of business. So if you're a pure scientist and you work in the lab a lot or work with others in certain settings where everyone's talking the same language, customers aren't always interested in all the technical aspects of your technology that maybe are exciting for you or you consider to be things that you would like to talk about at length. They're more interested about maybe the bottom line, performance, cost. If it's medical, how will this affect quality of life for the patients? For how will it save them time and effort in the hospitals and clinics? So all these things they want to know. Really, it often comes down to money, and you need to be able to talk about the value of what you might be bringing in terms of money once you're talking more about your solution, not strictly about the problem that they're facing. So that's just something to think about later, that the language of business is a little bit different than the language of science. But scientists do make the greatest business folks because they're so passionate about what they do. It's just a matter of learning that new way of discussing your idea based on the audience. So coming back a little bit to the ASBT market research, this again is the secondary type of market research that can help you to look at the bigger picture of where your technology sits within the state of the art, what are the trends in that field, what's coming down the pipeline in the next 4 to 5 years, all these things you want to be able to speak to in your proposal as well. So definitely take advantage of our services here. Send us a list of questions or things you'd love to have answers to but currently don't know, and our staff will dive into our database subscriptions and advanced online searches to see what we can find for you to help you have those pieces of information. So before you write, there are a few other steps. All of this is really before you write, which is why I would say the bulk of the time often is before you actually start writing that I would dedicate to this whole process. There's a few registrations required. When you sign up to register your company with a Secretary of State office, you automatically get an employee identification number. You still need to register to get a Dun & Bradstreet number as well. This is a corporate database with information on business credit, sales, and marketing progress. There are also some federal registrations that need to be done in sequential order that are all free, all online. Don't let anyone or any entity reach out and try to convince you that you need to pay hundreds of dollars to get these done through their services, because there should be no charge at all. If you are in Arkansas, we have the Arkansas Procurement Technical Assistance Center that can guide you through the System for Awards Management, or SAM, registration. There's also the SBIR.gov that we've been on a few times, where you complete the registration there. Grants.gov, and then there's some agency-specific ones that, depending on what agency you're looking at, they might have a separate one to do. So these are maybe not the most fun piece of the program to go through these registrations. But for the most part, once you do them once, you don't have to do them again, as long as you keep your account active over time. So it's more like one of those things you just have to get out of the way so that you can formally submit online. Otherwise, this will stop you from being able to get a proposal out the door. And you don't want to have that happen after you put on all the hard work involved. So you do want to allow 2 to 6 weeks for some of these to process. I would say the SAM registration takes the longest based on what I've seen. Although I don't think that takes quite 6 weeks. It has in the past when they've had some updates to their sites that caused some slowdowns. Before you start writing, you also want to engage the agency program manager that's associated with your research topic to the extent that you can. So I mentioned earlier that each agency has different topics of interest that align with their mission, objectives, often repeat every year. But I didn't mention that each topic also has a point of contact or a program director that you can engage if it's a grant agency. So definitely work with your center, work with me if you're in Arkansas to draft a summary, to reach out to them and get some feedback on your idea before you submit your proposal. They're going to be in a great position to tell you, oh, this is not something that we're likely to fund. You might modify your scope of work in this way or that way to be a better fit. And contract agencies aren't able to give you that kind of feedback most of the time, but they can answer any technical questions that you have about their topic areas. They often have something called references listed at the end of their topic descriptions too, and that gives you some clues about which elements they consider to be important in responsive applications. So you kind of just have to do a lot of homework and find out who's who among the agencies and what are the clues that they're giving to you that they want to see this put into your proposal somewhere to show that you've really got a strong handle on this particular topic area that they care about. So the main thing here is the grant agencies are open really year-round to talk with you about your idea. Contract agencies, they have certain windows of time, often called a pre-submission window, a month period, where you can talk about certain topics before it is officially out in their funding opportunity announcement or the solicitation. And that's the only time they can talk with you. After that, they have to shut down to communication for reasons of competitive bias. Some helpful resources I also wanted to get into, just to make sure you're aware of these, that kind of supplement what we do at the ASBTDC. So from SBIR.gov, you can go to resources and tutorials to learn more about this program and topic-specific areas. There's 18 courses, 3 different formats, include multimedia, and they're also self-paced. I would say start with program basics if you're brand new. In the state of Arkansas, we have supplemental state funding. And so I mentioned earlier the Technology Transfer Assistance Grant, often thought about as phase 0 funds to help you kick off your effort working in collaboration with centers like ours to take advantage of all the services available. There's a couple other programs that help to bridge that gap between phase 1 and 2. And the seed capital one provides working capital up to $500,000 for companies that are maybe a little bit farther along than phase 1 and ready to start putting more money into hiring staff and sales and marketing, manufacturing, things like that, that it really helped to help quickly get them ready to scale up and sell to their customers. The matching grant is up to $50,000 for a phase 1 award in the SBIR program and up to $100,000 for phase 2. And so, as I mentioned before, that can help you to cover costs that maybe aren't considered allowables within the SBIR program, but things that you really need to have done to be successful with commercialization. We also have a couple of tax incentive programs here in Arkansas that are probably pretty representative of what you might find in your state if you're not in Arkansas. Research and development and equity tax credit incentives. We have a Lab to Launch newsletter here that goes out every month to highlight success stories in our state, upcoming funding opportunities through SBIR STTR, new programming that we're offering, and training events. So if you're interested in getting that newsletter, feel free to use this link below, and I'll have these slides out to you within a couple of days, but you can definitely sign up for our newsletter to learn more. We love to feature success stories to help inspire you so that you can see yourself in them and know that you can be successful in this program. And don't be overwhelmed by the magnitude of all the work that goes involved, because it does have a great payoff in helping you to pursue something you're passionate about with this money there's nothing like it out there for these early stage research and development companies that really want to do this risky work to prove that their idea works. I also want to mention that the National Science Foundation SBIR STTR Proposal Lab is a new initiative that our center is collaborating with Montana, New Mexico, and Wyoming to offer in just a month or so. And so this is targeting folks that are new to National Science Foundation's program, probably phase 1 applicants, and it will kick off at the end of March. We're open through the end of this month for applications, and we might be extending that deadline a little bit. So there is limited space. We only have room for 6 teams from Arkansas to be in this cohort, but we'd love to have you participate if you're interested. What it will entail is meeting twice a week with the group. We're going to walk through each section of this proposal very intentionally to explain exactly what the agency is looking for in each one and give you strategies for success. After the conclusion of this 4-week program, you still have a month or so to work with your state to get assistance with really fine-tuning your proposal, getting any extra one-on-one support that you need before the June 30th submission window close. And the link is here. Yes, the link is here for that. But again, if you have any questions about this, please reach out to me. Here's my contact information, because this is a new thing. We have offered accelerators just for Arkansas in the past that were primarily led by myself. And this is the first time we're joining forces with a few other states to offer it, take advantage of all of our expertise and tools that we can use to help you. So please reach out to me if you have questions about that. We'd love to see you apply if you're an Arkansas company or an entrepreneur. And please follow our website. You can see what we're up to next. You can find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and on Facebook. So please follow us and stay current on what we have to offer you. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have at this time. So I'll have to click out here and go off to the questions. I don't see any questions at the moment. I also want to mention that we'll be offering a few other events. They are on our events calendar, but we have a Explore the National Science Foundation SBIR STTR program in early March, March 8th, I believe. And then we have a Sell Her Rate events in honor of International Women's Day. And those will be held also in early March. Let me pull that up for you actually, since we have a moment to allow time for questions. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen once more so you can see. If you go to our events calendar, you can find the events I was speaking of. On March 8th is when our Sell Her Rate events are. We have informal TED Talk style events to celebrate International Women's Day by having women leaders in business, especially technology business, or supporters of business, to all share their stories with us. And we have one that's out of Central Arkansas that starts at noon, runs to 1:30. The other one's out of Northeast Arkansas that starts at 2 and runs to 3:30. So you can sign up for both of those events on our events page. And then March 9th is when our National Science Foundation webinar that's agency-led will be offered the very next day. And that's by Henry Ahn of the National Science Foundation. One of the program directors will be speaking about the program. So if you're interested in the proposal lab and want to hear straight from someone that works there, this will be a good one to attend as well. All of our events are free of charge. Yeah, it looks like a question has come in, so I want to pull that up. Can a company present the same project to different agencies during 1 year? Then if the project is really successful, could it be awarded 2 grants from various agencies? So you can submit the same or identical project to different agencies. If you're funded by, or if you're selected for award by both, you can only accept the funding from one agency. Otherwise, you're double dipping, and the government would consider that illegal. So you do have to declare, for one thing, when you apply, that you have submitted identical proposal to more than one agency, and so that they have a heads up on that. And sometimes agencies can actually dually fund you if they're both interested and they both want to be involved. They can do that, but most of the time, one agency just will bow out and let the other provide the funding. What's more, another thing that I see companies do a lot is to modify their scope of work and maybe even the market application. That would be the ultimate goal. And so it's a different project, it's a different scope of work. If they get funding for both, then it's not double dipping because it's got a different work plan. So you can definitely submit the same one, but you can also submit different work plan leading to different technologies too. The next question asks, what stage are these small businesses in their career typically? For instance, would it be wise for startups to request SBIR funds, or should they have an established customer base before submitting a request? That's a really good question. And the answer is you can be, I would say most of the time, I see companies that are very early on in their career, very young, maybe just one person, sometimes a person that's a recent graduate from college and this is their first attempt to start their career. So there is no reason why you have to be an established company with a customer base, all that to be successful. And in fact, the National Science Foundation is often looking to fund very early stage companies that they want to be your seed, your initial seed investment. So, and that's really kind of the same line of thought among all the agencies, that they want to help you offset that risk that's already inherent in being an early stage company with lots to prove, but not much resources to bear just yet. So I would say starting early there's nothing wrong with that, and that definitely doesn't hurt your chances of winning these awards. You do want to still try to recruit the expertise that you can to show that you have the capabilities to perform on the research. So that might mean that you need to find someone that could be a consultant for your team, or recruit someone from university to serve in some kind of a leadership capacity. But otherwise, the company itself, you could form a week before you submit a proposal. You could formally register your company in the state, and that would be just fine. So yeah, that shouldn't be something to deter you from this program by any means if you're a new company. I'm not seeing any other questions at the moment. If you do think of something later, of course, feel free to reach out to me. This is a lot to throw at you. And so even though it's introductory, there's lots more to this program. I just wanted to talk about it more at the high level, how it came to be, and what are some things you can do before you formally start writing your full application. But once you are ready to once you've gotten positive feedback from the agency, once you've done this primary and secondary market research, and you know that there is opportunity there to meet the needs of customers, our center can provide lots of great tools to help you prepare your full application, which is usually a narrative, the budget, supplemental pieces like letters of support, all these descriptions of your facilities and things like that will go into the full application. And so we serve as mentors or guides through the whole process of preparing it. And so you always have someone holding your hand as you go through each step. And I think that really helps to hopefully help make it less overwhelming, less of a mystery, and increase your odds of success. We do see that companies that work with us tend to have higher award rates than the national average. So once you've had time to digest this material, please do reach out with any questions, and hope to see you at future events as well. As I mentioned at the beginning, you'll be receiving a copy of the slides as well as the recording, so you'll have that one in a couple days. And so thank you all for your time and attention today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and look forward to seeing you next time.